Hello guys and welcome to another ProfileTree video. So in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the importance of web typography, best practices for readable text. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So just before we get started with this video, let's get a understanding on what web typography is all about. Web typography is the art and technique of arranging type on a website. So type is pretty much the text, and it plays a vital role in shaping the user experience, conveying information, and establishing a brand's identity. Its significance goes beyond aesthetics. It influences readability, user engagement, and the overall website effectiveness. Now, we'll go ahead and take a look at why exactly is web typography crucial on a website. So where exactly can you grab these fonts? Now, before we get into the showcase of what it looks like in web development, I'll show you a couple of different areas where you'll be able to grab some fonts. Now, again, finding the right fonts for your website is an important aspect of web design. And you got to make sure that the fonts that you're looking for is suitable for the client, as well as maintaining brand identity, and of course with the overall looks that it looks nice. So I'm going to use a couple of different examples here. So starting off with our first one, which is Google Fonts. So this is what we can see here. Now what's great about this is Google Fonts itself is a popular and extensive library of free web fonts. It offers a wide variety of fonts that are optimized for web use, and it ensures fast loading times and consistent rendering across different devices and browsers. Now you can easily integrate Google Fonts into your website using HTML, or if you are using other areas like website builder or content management system, you can also use it for that as well, as long as you click upload, drag the file in, and that then picks out all the different boldness of it, the different, like if there's italics on that particular font, it's all there. So again, we're going to use Conforta as one of our examples. So this is what this one looks like. Now if you open it up in Google Fonts, this is what the typography looks like for the different previews of style. Here we have light 300, regular 400, medium 500, and that goes up to bold 700. Also gives you a couple of ideas on how it looks and where to use it for. So when you have some text, how can you choose a typeface? So that's just choosing the type. Of course, that's just more into it. A couple of different articles there. But anyway, in order to get a particular font that you like off this place, just click the download family. Once that downloads, you'll get it on the top that it has been successfully downloaded, and you'll just easily find that on your download file in the File Explorer. So there's other parts as well to Google Fonts. You can also choose icons as well. They play a very big part in your website, especially if you have some UI actions, and these are like a user interface. So you've got logout, check circle, favorite, search, menu, home. Not particularly related to typography. However, it will add that flair with and alongside of the font that you use. So you can see with the icons here, it'll match our typography for Conforta. Now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate what this looks like before we hop on to another area where we can find fonts for a website. So this is it here. This is a website that was created a while back, and it's called Homeschooling. Now you can see how the Conforta font has been used in this particular website. You can see how well it ties in with the site. It's nice and modern. We'll go ahead and preview this site actually. We'll have a look at what you can create with it. So anyway, you can see how modern this particular font looks. It's nice, it's sleek, it's something that's not an eyesore in particular. So if you have a look at some different fonts as well, some of them could be a little bit too much, and it all depends on the website that you're building anyway. So with this one, it's nothing too funky, nothing too like retro look. It's more of a modern site, and it ties in well with the other areas for the site. So I've just used Comforta regular for the entire thing, and you need to try to match it with the actual other fonts as well. So if you're choosing, so we've chosen Comforta as our font. Try to make sure that it ties well with any of the other bold ones as well, any other bold fonts that you try to use. So there are actually a couple of websites that talk about what fonts will match what. So depending on the type of site you're going to be creating, if you just specify it, you'll be able to see what matches what and what pairs up very nicely with each other. So this sort of font pairs up nicely to other bolder fonts, as you can see. That's more or less how that looks. But I tried to keep the entire site close as I can with just using the singular font, because sometimes it's better as an individual. But yes, that's pretty much what Google Fonts is all about. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and move on to our next website where you can find some fonts. Now let's quickly go through the other websites that you can grab fonts off. So here's another free one called FontSpace. Again, this is where you can get something a little bit more funky looking. So I've just searched a ProfileTree here, and there's a couple of different suggestions for how ProfileTree would look. So that looks pretty cool there. That's a sanctuary. That's how you said. So, and there's a couple of different ones there, like coffee healing, pumpkin type Halloween. So a couple of different funky looking ones, but you can go for something normal if you want to. They've got thousands and thousands of fonts here. So if we were to use one for commercial use, so there's a couple of different ones there. Let's see what one's popular at the minute. You can see they're all like signature type fonts. Let's see if we could try to go for commercial use and maybe by year as well. Let's see what they have. So they even have one for a Walt Disney font as well. So if you want the if you're maybe doing a website based off Disney, let's just say like Walt Disney, and there's a section in particular or a blog, then you can get creative with it as well. So these fonts would look great. Let's see, but yes, I would say FontSpace is a place where you can get a little bit more of a funky look or a different way to viewing font. Now, in particular to those who actually create these sort of typography are graphic designers or UI or UX designers, so people that would think onto the user interface, and it does play a big part in terms of a website. So if we have a look and see here, so if we were to pick out a particular font, so we'll go back, we'll have a look here. So this sort of font, you'd think, oh, that's like a hippie type font. So if you try to match that onto a site, you can go for a website if you're building one for like hip hop, something like that, or within the culture of the 70s, the 80s, that sort of feel for it. That's what that font looks like. And in particular, it does take a big part of your site. You got to remember that majority of your site will be based on typography. So if you even take a look at ours, everything that you see, so big bold fonts, you can see here that's what you're leading onto basically. So that's the sort of first area that you'll look at, which is we deliver sleek website design and optimized content marketing. So that's nice and bold, and you can see that we have in small there, digital marketing agency driving business online. Now, if we had this font in our site, you'd be thinking of a different category for what we actually do. So then you'd be thinking, oh, we don't do web development. So that's why typography plays a very important role in web design. So with ours, our ones is bold, modern, sleek. That's what we've aimed for this site. We're looking at the new digital age. That's what we want to try to represent for the online presence. And of course, we want to tell people that we know what we're doing for website services, digital marketing services, content marketing services, and that also portrays what we can do as a web development agency. So that's what typography can show as well, is what we're like with designing websites. And if we end up mismatching fonts, it doesn't create a good look for a web development agency, especially if you're a client looking to get web development done by an agency and you see that some of their sites have very weird typography. It doesn't really give a good representation of what that company can do. So that again, I'm just adding that on top of why it is important to think about the importance of typography. And with the likes of this sort of font would only be suitable for certain areas in a site. So if you do want to create a particular area where maybe you're showcasing like the 60s, the 70s, things like that, then you would try to represent that font and mix it along with the blog types. You wouldn't actually necessarily have it on your site. And just going into detail with what I mean as well. So this is a Squarespace site. So this is More Street Market. Now, they've got a cool font there, as you can see, and it's been matched with something similar from the logo. So you can see how they've used that for the entire site. You can see how they've went about it as well. So I would say that FontSpace would be a great website to pull out font like this. And of course you can get it from other areas as well, but I would say that FontSpace does have the cool looking funky ones. So if you want to try to use that for your website, and you can see how it's been well designed for More Street Market. So that's just an example of what you can do with that particular font. Just quickly running through the different other sites that you can try to use as well. So this one is Font Squirrel. Now, this provides a high quality of fonts. That's what Font Squirrels do, and they're also free for commercial use, which is great, so you don't need to worry about any copyright. These fonts are carefully created and often come with licenses as well, and that pretty much allows you to use them in your web projects without any restrictions. So you could use Font Squirrel. They have a list of different fonts that you can use as well, so a list to choose from, you can see. And you can see some of the classifications as well. You can search up a bunch of word fonts as well. You've also got a web font generator. So upload fonts, and then you can see and have a look at an expert opinion. You've got a font identifier as well. So if you're maybe looking for what exactly that font is and there's no name on it, upload that image. They'll be able to find the particular font for you, which again is handy. And then of course they do have font talk as well, so that's just a resourcing tool. So here's our next one, which is DA font or Da font. And again, another popular platform that offers a wide range of free fonts for personal use. But the only issue with DA font or Da font is that you need to check or carefully check the usage rights for each font, as some of these may not be suitable for commercial projects. So again, there are plenty of different font websites out there, so just consider factors like readability, aesthetics, branding, and of course the overall theme for your site. Have a look through some of these different font websites. Now, I haven't covered all of them, mainly because we just want to talk about the importance of what web typography is which we'll move on to soon. But there are other ones like Behance, MyFonts, font library websites, theme forest, professional design software. So you use like Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, and they come with a variety of different fonts as well. So just remember when you are selecting a particular font is to double check the licensing. Again, if you want to not have to think about that, then the Font Squirrel would probably be the best area or website that provides that collection that you need for your site. So again, ensure you're using them within the allowed usage rights. Now, another thing that you may want to consider is to use the software like Figma. Now, with Figma, this is a cloud-based design and prototyping tool, and it's widely used by designers, developers, and teams to create user interfaces. And it's a great wireframing tool, should I say. So you can create interactive prototypes, collaborative design projects, and as well as that, it stands out for its real-time collaboration features, intuitive interface, and versatility across different design tasks. Now, Figma is particularly popular in the field of user experience, so that's UX, and the user interface UI design. We'll go through a list of different key features, but let me just first go through the importance of why you should relate typography to this anyway. So how is it related? Well, you're going to be gauging on the different types of fonts to use. Of course, there's going to be a list to pick from, and it can be very, very overwhelming, especially in terms of web development. So when you are wireframing, you'll be able to gauge what fonts will work with what font, and you'll be able to make those changes easily when it comes to wireframing. Now, when it comes to the actual web development, it can get slightly confusing, especially if you've already got, well, just say that you don't have a font decided and you're building your site, and now the actual font doesn't link well with the theme. It can get all very stressful, very, very confusing, very fast. So that's why wireframing is, I would say, a good step process into creating and choosing the right typography for web development. So I'll list out an example of a website that's been created using a wireframe or a wireframing tool, which is Figma. So this is the LLA website that is one of our internal builds. Now let's take a closer look at it. So we can see with the typography that's been used, let's have a look. It is using, see if we can get a closer look for the actual typography. Okay. So it's using a font called Enter at 400 weight, and of course that's the sizing, which is 14px, and the line height at 20px. Now, if we go back out from it, we can see how it's been used around the site. Again, let's just double check what the actual font size is. So you can see with this one, the difference is this one's called Sin, and then the other one's Inner. However, a UI or UX designer or a graphic designer are able to determine what font would match what. You can see how these are very close to each other. So this is Inner, and of course the one below is Sin, and that's with the actual header itself. Now let's have a look at what font is above here. Again, it's Sin, and it's aligned at the center. We'll take a look at what font's being used for this area. So Inner. So it matches fairly well with each other, considering that the font weight on the Luxury, Leisure, and Affluence, which is the Sin, is a lot stronger than Inner. And you can see that with the font weight as well, which sits at 400. So typically what you would like to do in terms of website building is you want to keep the amount of fonts that you use to a maximum of 2. You don't want to mix and match different font sizes and font weights, as it can look a little bit weird on the site, and it won't look well. It won't portray the actual site well, and that's when it can start going downhill. You can also lose user interest if you keep changing your font or your font sizes and your font weights. It's best when you are doing and building a site is to keep the majority of your font sizes the same. There's no point changing them about. So if, let's just say, within the smaller paragraphs, you're keeping the let's just say your sizing is at 20px, so always try to keep it at 20px for that particular area, and then for this one is going to be around 16. Do what's best within your judgment as well, and try not to follow going for particular numbers as well. So it doesn't have to be 15, it doesn't have to be 20. If there's no point trying to round it to the nicest looking number, you're looking for how it's going to look on your actual site. So that one's 16px, and this one is also 16px. So they match well, and they're close to each other as well. Now this is more or less a sort of scroller, so that's okay. So that's at 60px. We want to make sure that people see that that's going to be a scroller, so that's why it's that big. And if we scroll down a little bit more, we can see that the font sizing has changed a tiny bit, but not too much. It's now sitting at 20px, but it still looks well. And that'll occur for the different parts of the website. Now, this one's like a blog form or a blog. So we could see that the sizing is 18px because we were wanting to gauge user interest. We've made the font a little bit bigger, but not too bold. So we want to keep the font bold for, let's say, the headings. So this one's a heading, so that's H2. So that's the sizing of that heading, meaning that typography is at 30px, and the line height there is 36px, which you don't really have to worry about, but the weight of the font is 700, so it's nice and bold. You can see it very well. You know what the title's going to be, and then below, of course, is what you'll be reading. So that's the body text, and this one's like secondary heading, if that makes sense. So that'll be smaller, but you're not trying to gauge too much, but you are trying to say it's in your topic in a sense. So that's H4 with the font sin and the weight 600. Again, the sizing is 20px, so it's slightly bigger compared to 18px. I would say that it's best to just keep these both at 20px, just so it doesn't get too confusing. So it is 18px, so that's okay. But this was 20px, so that makes sense to make this a little bit bigger than the paragraph, because this is still a heading compared to the body text, as you can see. If we scroll down, of course, there's other articles that you can see there, and with the articles, the actual font sizing is coming up to about 16px. But you can change that anyway, depending where you're building the site, whether it'll be a website builder, CMS, or if you're hard coding it. But yeah, that's just an overlook of why and how you can use typography on a platform tool like Figma. So now that we've taken a look at the readability and accessibility, we've also taken a look at the user experience, which is UX. Now let's have a look at why web typography is crucial within branding and identity. So typography contributes to brand consistency. Custom fonts and distinct typography choices can help establish a unique brand identity, and setting a website apart from competitors is how you can achieve that. And with consistent typography across all brand materials reinforces brand recognition and recall. So you can see with ProfileTree, again, with this site, it's nice and bold, nice and sleek. We've chosen a dark mode from this as well. So that's how this brand is represented. Now, if we take a look at Conley Cove, more or less we've used the same font. It's close enough to ProfileTree, so you can distinct it from that. But it's a little bit more sleek. As you can tell, the font for the typography that's been used is a little lighter, less weight compared to ProfileTree. But more or less it is almost the same, as you can see. Now, we'll take a look at another one, which is another internal brand called Amazing Food and Drink. Again, you could see very close font. So this is the font that we like to use for all our other sites. See how close it is in terms of the site from ProfileTree. Now, it's more or less the same as Amazing Cars and Drives with Amazing Food and Drink. You can see just a different color. So if it is a custom font, let's just say, you're opening that unique brand identity. And also getting back to what we talked about earlier on, which is Walt Disney. We can all tell that that particular writing is Disney. So let's just write down Disney. So you can see that that particular typography that's being used for Disney. We all know that's how it looks, and that's its brand identity. That is for Walt Disney itself. And you can even see if I type in Walt Disney, let's just type in Walt Disney with the W as well, and how other people have tried to follow that same typography used. So this is Makorama. It's very, very close to the original. So this is the new Waltograph, and there's Dan's Disney. So again, that's its brand identity. That's what Disney's brand identity is, and it's unique, and it's a seller for the site itself, or it's a seller for the brand itself. So that, I would say, is the branding and identity for typography and how it's crucial. So why else is web typography an importance for web development or websites? You have other areas as well, like emotional impact. So typography influences emotions and perceptions. You may not be able to see it, but it can. So serif fonts can invoke tradition and seriousness, while sans serif fonts often convey the modernness of a website and simplicity. So this is more or less sans serif. Script fonts may evoke elegance as well and luxury. So what we seen earlier on as well with luxury, leisure, and affluence. You can see how well the boldness is from that particular site, and in comparison with our ProfileTree one, it's more or less there. So that's giving you an idea that the site is modern as well as being simplistic. So the right typography sets the tone for the content and aligns with the website's intended message. You've got other areas as well, like visual hierarchy. So typography establishes a hierarchy that guides users' attention. Headings, subheadings, and body text differentiate the importance levels. So take, for example, how our brand color is green. So that's ProfileTree. You could tell that we're getting the user's attention by saying sleek and optimized. Those are our keywords for that particular area. So we deliver sleek website design and optimized content marketing. So not only are we offering two different services there, saying that we offer sleek website design and offer optimized content marketing, you can see that we're straight to the point on that, bolding out the keywords sleek and optimized. So that, I would say, is a visual hierarchy. And again, mixed matching colors. You can see that this font here is a bold white compared to the bottom here. However, we still are making keywords bold, like website design, web development, digital training, video production, content marketing, and SEO. That was the first thing that attracted me to this paragraph, which were those different core services that ProfileTree has to offer. So I don't know about yourselves, but that's what I seen straight away as a user. So again, that's a visual hierarchy. And another important thing in terms of the typography is mobile responsiveness. So Responsive typography adapts to different screen sizes and devices. Mobile-friendly typography ensures readability on smartphones and tablets, and that'll enhance the user experience across all platforms. So that's what we discussed earlier on. And another part as well is the CTA, which is call to action effectiveness. So well-designed typography enhances the visibility and impact of CTAs. So standout fonts, colors, sizes, that'll draw the attention to calls to action. And that'll encourage users to take desired actions such as signing up, making a purchase, or subscribing. So if I do a demonstration on that with our site, so this is the contact us. You can see here, big green button, and then there's an email address where we can place it in. But that big green button, maybe it'll get you to sign up, maybe it might not, but that's a tactic as well, which is the call to action effectiveness. And another thing as well with web typography is the global audience consideration. So web typography considers international audiences. That's what I would think. So font choices that support multiple languages, that's another area as well. So this will support multiple languages, something that's modern, something that's simplistic, and the character sets ensure that the content remains legible and culturally appropriate for a diverse user base. That's something that you really have to think about as well. Some fonts don't generate well in different languages, unfortunately. So, of course, in the Middle Eastern area as well, depending on the font that's being used, especially if you're offering those services to change the language. Of course, with the likes of Nike, Adidas, bigger brand names, they would want to support different countries with different language on fonts. Typography plays a very, very big part to that. And of course, a slight misunderstanding can be a big error. So that's another reason why the global audience consideration should be considered. But in summary, you can see that web typography itself is a very, very strong, powerful tool that shapes how the users engage with a website's content. It impacts readability, brand identity, emotional resonance, and overall the user experience. So please be careful with choosing the fonts. Make sure they're the right fonts. Again, I would suggest maximum of 2 fonts per website. Don't go any more. If you do, you'd be thinking mainly on different areas like blogs, or you're creating like more of a funky type website, but that's what I would say that is. And then as well as that, do consider other areas like sizing, spacing, hierarchy as well. Like think about that thoughtfully. And at the end of the day, if you're a UI UX designer or a graphic designer or a web designer, they'll be able to ensure the website's effectiveness, and of course they'll be able to think about how visually appealing a website will look, how it'll engage a user, and how accessible it is to a wide range of users. But guys, hopefully this video has helped, and hopefully it's shown you the importance of web typography and the best practices for readable text as well. As I said, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comment section below. We'd like to know what you think. If you're also maybe thinking of getting a website built, why not click contact us on www.profiletree.com. Go ahead and enter your details with first name, last name, email address, your contact number, and of course tell us about your project. We'd like to know what your project is all about and how we can help. But as I said, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you for the next one.